to join as soon as join fast, so that they can attend all the session. So, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mohammad Shaheer Siddiqui, an esteemed associate professor in the Department of Education at Aligarh Muslim University, AMU. Dr. Siddiqui's academic journey is distinguished by his tenure at two other central universities. From 2019 to 2021, he served as an associate professor of Department of Education at Tezpur University in Assam. Prior to that, between 2010 and 2019, he was an assistant professor at Vishwa Bharati Shanti Niketan in West Bengal, an institution of national importance founded by Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore ji. His research interests are diverse and encompasses the philosophy of education, Indian intellectual traditions, Sufi and Bhakti philosophies, education for sustainable development, and issues related to sexism and gender in education. Dr. Siddiqui's contribution to the field of education are both profound and far-reaching. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Muhammad Shaheer Siddiqui. Thank you, sir. You have spared time from your busy schedule, and uh, please, we are eager to listen to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Zishan, for this introduction. Actually, I don't deserve this. Is just a formality, and but your love and you have invited me, so your love and your affection is enough for me. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for inviting me, giving me this opportunity. Integral University as well as MMTTC, Aligarh Muslim University, and all my colleagues, my seniors, and my friends. So thank you very much. So today's topic is actually this is a talk, and because this is the part of this orientation going on NEP 2020, and since IKS is the part, this integral part of this entire orientation program, so I think one lecture has already been delivered, or I think tomorrow Professor Sajid Saab will deliver on IKS. So just let me share my slides, then we will continue our talk. Just 1 minute. In between, if I will keep my camera off, this is due to the internet issue, but my slides would be visible to you and my voice would be there. Just 1 minute. So I think my slides are visible, and
Yes, sir. It's visible.
okay, thank you very much. So my voice would be audible in between, and I have to save the bandwidth. Therefore, otherwise, if I'll open my camera, then it will be buffering. So internet issues may be there. So I don't think that my face is so important.
No, no, sir. You are very smart.
But
But we हम लोग काम चला लेंगे, sir.
yeah, no, definitely my slides would entertain you. No issue.
Yeah.
You would enjoy my slides. Everything
Okay,
is.
sir. Okay.
And I will also share after my lecture, because it's not possible to discuss all the slides. More than 50 slides are there, but I will just touch the important points, and all other things will be in discussion. So
Fine.
so today's topic, what I have chosen for discussion, it is Indian knowledge system, traces, traditions, and continuity. Actually, I have been delivering on this particular topic for last 2 years and more than 2 years. And my passion, my area is also in Indian intellectual tradition, because this term has been introduced in national education policy. So that's why I have to use this term. Otherwise, I would prefer to use the term Indian knowledge traditions or Indian intellectual traditions. That would be befitted, whatever content is there. But since it's the protocol, so I have to use it. The agenda what I have set for today's discussion is introduction, sources of IKS, as per the norms and as per the syllabus provided by UGC and MMTTC, and then vocabulary, terminology, methods, and legacy of traditions. So this is the framework what I have set just on the basis of the syllabus which has been provided to almost all the HRDCs and all the MMTTCs. And on that particular topic, we have to deliver. We have been delivering lectures just to orient the awareness about IKS. So regarding the introduction, just quickly, I will pass on these things and then we will come to the main point. Introduction of IKS it is just the ancient systems of knowledge in India. Basically consist of understanding the mysteries, the universe, human interactions with environment, philosophy of life, importance of conservation. So I think the slide is before you. You may read it out. You may just check on the important points like philosophy, just pick pointed way like philosophy, grammar, life sciences, astrology, crafts, medicine, yoga, means everything, wherever you can think, whatever you can see, whatever you can pick out from your day-to-day experiences, from the surroundings, whatever discipline we have been teaching, we have been studying, we have been acquiring, everything is there in IKS, Indian Knowledge System. But the fundamental difference is between Indian knowledge system and the term between Indian knowledge traditions is only the technicalities. IKS refers to the technical aspect of the knowledge dissemination, that how knowledge was created and how knowledge was disseminated from one generation to another generation and how it was preserved in different arenas. So this is all about the technicalities. But when we talk about the Indian knowledge traditions, the Hindi term, normally it is used in the draft, Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. But Indian knowledge system is not the exact translation of Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. But when we talk about the Indian knowledge traditions or Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, it means the knowledge which has been preserved and which has been accumulated in the form of traditions, in the form of oral traditions or written traditions in almost every arena of life, apart from the specific disciplines, because disciplines are just the inventions or discoveries of 18th or 19th century, the term discipline. But we are talking about the some 5,000 years back or 4,000 years back. There the knowledge was in such a way as it was the part of life. Whatever was needed, whatever was to be, the problem to be solved, and men tried to discover the better solution. So in that way, that becomes the knowledge. So in all the arenas of life, without any differentiation into disciplines, into arts or sciences or anything, whatever man acquired on this vast land of India, that came to be known as the knowledge tradition. So later on, when written traditions were there, then all the oral traditions were converted into written traditions, and the earliest text on earth, considered basically on Rig Veda and other Vedas, and then the system of knowledge continued. So in that perspective, we are here, the fundamental difference between system and traditions. Now, what comprises IKS? Because before discussing anything, before enter into the detailed aspects of any knowledge tradition, we just have to concentrate on this one. So we have to concentrate on certain assumptions, and we see that certain postulations are there, certain in this particular way, IKS, Indian knowledge system or traditions, we have assumed that Indian way or Bharatiya Drishti is sustainable and strives for the welfare of all. It means that Indian knowledge tradition is based on certain postulations, and one of the postulations is that Indian way of thinking, Indian way of looking at the things. What is this Bharatiya Drishti? Bharatiya Drishti is a particular way of looking at the things, how you perceive the world, how you perceive the universe, how you perceive the humanity on earth, how you perceive the human relations. So Indian knowledge traditions provides a particular way of looking at the things, looking at the universe, all the spiritual matters, all the metaphysical matters, or all the matters related to the physical ideas, physical aspects of life. In that way, the second point you can see, the Indian knowledge systems comprises of Gyan, Vigyan or Jivan Darshan. These three things are the fundamental, the basic things, where Gyan refers to whatever knowledge. Gyan refers to whatever knowledge. Knowledge means what we know and what we don't know. The journey between the both ages is known as the Gyan. Whatever man did not know, whatever he came to know. This is the difference between ignorance and the knowledge. Means the point where you are existing and the point where you just step forward. That came to be known as knowledge. But the next step is Vigyan. If the knowledge is specialized, it becomes Vigyan. One of the fundamental books written during the Guptan period, that is Amar Kosh, it has used this term for the first time, Vigyan. And the Amar Singh, the author of this book, this is the first encyclopedia and intellectual history of world almost. In Amar Kosh, Amar Singh says that Vigyan means Vishesh Gyan, a knowledge which is specialized. It is in Sanskrit. So the term says that when a knowledge is specialized, then it becomes Vigyan. For example, if this particular knowledge is used for the health sciences, it becomes Ayurveda. The same knowledge, when it is used for the art of archery, it becomes Dhanurveda. And when we use for making the architecture or some building or things, then it becomes the Shilpa Veda. So in that way, you see the knowledge is specialized in the same way as the astrology, astrophysics, and chemistry and all other things. So in that way, Indian knowledge traditions were divided and specialized. So Gyan to Vigyan, general knowledge to the Vishesh knowledge or the specialized knowledge. And the third most important thing of Indian knowledge tradition is that the Jivan Darshan. There's a particular way of looking at the things. How you look at the life, how you look at the death, how you look at the universe, how you look at the relations, as I have already discussed. That makes different whatever you think or whatever the entire rest of the world thinks. For example, what we think about life. We think that there is a life after death. We also think that whatever we are suffering, if we are suffering or whatever will happen, that is only the results of our karmas. So this is the specialized way of thinking, a specialized way of looking at the life. In the same way, when we see that the people are suffering, what is the cause of suffering? Then Indian philosophy says, Indian knowledge tradition says that there are three types of sufferings. That is known as the dukkha. Three types of dukkha are there. One is known as, you see, Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, or Adhyatmik. These three are the categories. We will take on in the forthcoming slides. That's why I'm just giving you the example. The Jivan Darshan is how you look at the life. That is the meaning. So knowledge is not doesn't mean that it is a given fact, or it is something which is just like a fact is given and you have to just grasp it. I think my voice is some breaking or audible or not audible. Is there any problem?
Audible, sir.
Audible.
No, sir. Okay.
Okay. So you see in that way that the third point is that the tradition of validating and putting into practice has impacted our education, arts, administration, law, justice, health, manufacturing, commerce, and almost all the aspects of life. So the tradition of knowledge not only affects the specialized branches of knowledge or the general branches of knowledge, but almost in every arena, every aspects of life. How we take decision, that is influenced by the Indian way of thinking. How we particularly steer our life, how we plan our life, even how we plan our death, that is also based on the specialized way of thinking. देखिए कबीर के बारे में it was said कि there was a taboo in Indian tradition that if you just die in Kashi, then you will directly go to Kashi, to Swarga, to Jannah. So, but Kabir Das, because he was a revolutionist poet, he was a Bhakti poet, so he didn't believe, he wanted to break this taboo, that it is not necessarily because everyone, it's very difficult for everyone to go to Kashi, and if everybody will believe it, so it may become a superstition in the life. So he just went to, at the last part of life, he went to Maghar and he died there. So how you plan your death, this is also one of the ways of Indian way of looking at the life. So not only about, and how you live the life, that is also suggested in Indian traditions of knowledge. Like there is Varnashram Vyavastha. In the same way, you see that life is divided into the four basic classes or four basic divisions. Brahmacharya Ashram, that is specifically for the student's life. And then Grastha Ashram, the household's life. And then you see that Vanprastha Ashram, that is the life of isolation, means the detachment from the family and society. And last one is the Sannyas Ashram, where you detach your renunciation, the life of renunciation, asceticism. where you can contribute, you can earn something for your spiritual benefit. And during the Vanprastha ashram, you have to contribute towards the society. So the life was divided on the basis of your necessity, the different spheres of your life. In the same way, the aims and objectives of life were also decided. How you look at the life, that also depends on what you have to achieve and what you decide to achieve in the life. So four basic aims and objectives of life are already predetermined, or because whatever objectives you decide, they will come into the periphery of these four objectives: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. What you realize, what you earn, and how you spend, and how you achieve the welfare, the benefit, everything was decided. So this is the Jivan Darshan, that how your life would be there. There's a pattern of life, there's a way of life. So that's why the philosophy in India is not just a packet of knowledge or the wisdom, or it's not just you can say that a bundle of knowledge. Like in West, you see where the passion of knowledge is known as the philosophy. But in India, the term darshan is used for philosophy. Darshan refers a mechanism or to see by which the ultimate reality is seen, the power by which ultimate reality is seen. Darshan means महसूस करना, feel करना, to realize in that way. So until you realize the reality of any object or the knowledge aspects, then it is incomplete just to have the knowledge of about an object or entity until you realize it. So philosophy or darshan in Indian context is the applied aspect, vyavaharik hai, behavioral hai. That's why the term Jivan Darshan is integral part of Indian knowledge traditions. We not only talk about philosophy, but also we live philosophy. Everyone in India whosoever belong to India and its spirit, we have a particular way of thinking, and we take our decision accordingly. In the same way, you see, defining now, we can define the term here that knowledge of India in this sense includes knowledge from ancient India and its successes and challenges, and a sense of India's future aspirations specific to education, health, environment, and indeed all aspects of life. So ancient India is just the beginning point. It is just the beginning point. Beginning point means that knowledge is not confined only to ancient India. Knowledge of India doesn't mean the knowledge is confined only to ancient India. It doesn't mean that knowledge was created only in ancient India. Ancient India, no doubt, is the point where knowledge of India is just emerging, the genesis of knowledge. But later on, it was influenced by the many factors, and then it was further developed and modified and transformed in different ways and reached to different eras, and then other elements were conglomerated in Indian knowledge, and then it goes on, and in the different time periods, different eras, it further continued. History today, you see that Indian knowledge traditions is continued in different ways. So in that perspective, we will see. Now you see that major themes of continuity and consensus are there of Indian knowledge traditions. One theme is that Indian knowledge traditions is just whatever we see in Indian languages, particularly the Sanskrit knowledge traditions or Sanskrit knowledge system. Just let me open my camera 1 minute. I think this is some technical issue. Just 1 minute. I think my camera is also visible. Okay, slides are visible to you?
Yes, sir. Slides are visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
On my part, there's some technical issue. I myself
Yes, sir.
cannot see myself. So, okay, no issue. So, major themes, continuity and consensus. In that perspective, continuity and consensus means that I have already clarified that Indian knowledge tradition is not confined only to ancient India. It means that it originated in ancient India and as a part of Sanskrit knowledge traditions or Sanskrit knowledge system, but it was preserved and disseminated to the next generation. Next generation also added its own contribution, its own input. And the elements of the outer traditions or whosoever entered into Indian tradition, they also contributed to Indian knowledge traditions. And then it developed and further reached to next generation. So in that way, it is in continuity. And consensus means many other traditions from both from different areas, including the outside India, also like Greek elements, like Roman elements, like Islamic elements, like Iranian elements, Afghani elements, and also the British elements, Portuguese elements. So many elements which have their influence from outside India, Middle East, African nations, and so many other elements are there. The influence of languages, and also the elements from within, like South Indian elements, Northeast culture, and also the culture from different states, culture from different different ethnic groups, languages, and also the Bengali literature, the Marathi literature, the Tamil literature, the Sangam literature within India. So they all added beauty to the Vedic literature. So it would be a fallacy to consider or to confine that Indian knowledge tradition is just confined to the Vedic literature or Sanskrit knowledge system. So that's why it is a consensus. The many things like Tirukural Tiruvalluvar wrote the Tirukural, the Tamil poet. Tirukural may be considered as the Veda in Tamil language. So this is the consensus. In the same way, you see that the Upanishadic philosophies were also translated. The books of Upanishads were also translated by Darashiko in Persian. So it was the contribution of Persian language. The same idea was there of Upanishadic, intellectual height, and it was adopted and assimilated by Darashiko, and he has converted this philosophy into Persian literature. So he just transformed this philosophy into the Persian language so that the people who don't know Sanskrit or who are more acquainted with the Persian language, they may be acquainted with the great philosophy of this land. So in that, this is also the consensus. So in that way, we have the continuity of the Indian knowledge traditions. Again, you see that a literature of different languages, Indian philosophical thought also, not only the thought which are inspired by the Vedic traditions like Rig Vedas or the philosophical schools which have their roots only in the Vedas, they are considered as the orthodox schools like Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Mimamsa, Vedanta. They are the 6 schools. They are normally considered based on the Vedic ideas, or they believe that their roots are there in the Vedas. But there are some other philosophical schools also, like Jainism, like Buddhism, like Charvak, and some other schools, the different branches of Sautantrik or Vajrayan of the Buddhas. So they do not consider Vedas as their primary source of their thought. But they do not deny even the existence of Veda. They develop their own ideas, but these philosophical schools are also the part of the Indian philosophical thought. So this is the consensus and this is the continuity. So it is again, I would like to repeat that Indian knowledge tradition is not confined only to the Vedic literature or only to a specific era of history. Then astronomy, mathematics, health and medicines, yoga and Ayurveda. Even during Guptan period, you see, who contributed to mathematics, the Varahmihir. In the same way, you see some other in modern India also. You see the Ramanujam. They also contributed. These people also contributed. Varahmihir was also, Bhaskaracharya was also there. In the same way, medicine and Ayurveda, the part of Vedic literature. But during the 6th or 7th centuries, you see that there was a person who is known as Raja Bhoj. Bhoj Parmar वंश का एक राजा थे, राजा भोज. तो his capital was Malwa. He was considered, he was actually popular in the intellectual history of India because of his erudition, or you can say उसका intellectualism की वजह से, उनकी wisdom की वजह से. He was very famous, very popular. So he composed a number of books. One of the early books of anatomy was written by Raja Bhoj. And it is the title, if I remember, is Samsaramra Sutradhar and Hastayurveda. So these were the books on architecture as well as on anatomy. So he also composed the books of medicine in 6th and 7th century. So not only it is Indian knowledge tradition is not just confined to the Ayurveda, which is the part of Veda, but also the in 6th and 7th century also books of medicines were also written by different peoples. Even in 9th century you see, and 16th century you see, in South India, the age of Raja Krishna Dev Rai, the Bahmani kingdom. There were marvelous means in the temples of South India. Temples were the centers of education. Bharatnatyam, it originated in the temples of South India. It is not the contribution of the Vedic era. Rather, it is a contribution of South India. That is the Bharatnatyams or all the classical dances of India and the music. They originated in the temples of India. So this is the continuity and consensus. So that's why my purpose is to say that it is not in a very narrow trends that knowledge tradition is just confined to a particular age of history. Because many people are of the view that it just means the dissemination of Vedas and Vedic knowledge. Only this is just confined. Rather, it is in different ways. I will show you the literature, the list of literature. This one is there. You see, one is the dictionary meaning of literature. I'm not touching this dictionary meaning. You all are acquainted with this. In the context of India, where there is an unbroken living oral traditions with a history of more than at least 5,000 years, the meaning of literature for our present purpose has to be extended to mean composition. Because literature doesn't mean only the written work. Literature also in Indian context, it also means the oral traditions. So Vedas are the oral traditions in that way. When the writing was discovered or invented, they were converted into written form. It includes the works composed and transmitted orally from generation to generation. It's obvious. So three categories are there. One is Shruti, Smriti, Vedas. So Shruti and Smriti are the categories. Shruti is not the name of literature, rather it's the method. And Smriti based on the memory. So Vedas are the Shruti literature in that context. Now you see that Sanskrit knowledge system means all those knowledge traditions which were composed in Sanskrit language, in classical Sanskrit. This is the meaning. Then literature written by people other than Sanskrit knowledge system, literature written by people of various religions as well as non-religious people. Because in Indian context, religious and non-religious, it is not equivalent to the Western meaning of religion. Religion means here faith, but in Indian context, there is a particular term that is dharma. Dharma or religion is not the exact translation of the term dharma. Dharma has a different implications in Indian context. So in that way, here religion means the people of different faith. That's why the people of Greek origin, they also contributed to India. For example, during the type of Chandragupta Maurya, Chanakya wrote Arthashastra. And during the same period, a Greek ambassador, Megasthenes, he also composed the Indica. Indica is about India. So that's why it is the part of Indian knowledge tradition. How we can say that it's a foreign book. A writer is foreign, but he's writing about Indian knowledge or Indian traditions or Indian political system, whatever. So Indica is also about Indian traditions, Indian people, Indian political system, and so on. It's also the part. So it is the contribution from non-religious people who do not believe in Indian religions. In the same way, when Menander came to India, there was a Bodh Bhikshu, a Buddhist monk, Naksen. Naksen debated in a royal court on the issues of like spiritual issues, and he was thinking since he was a Buddhist monk, so he just involved Milind, the king, the Greek king, in the discussion, and then he converted the king into the Buddhist traditions. So in that way, his means discussion became so popular that it came in the form of a book, Milind Pan. So that book I will also show you in the last slide. So these are also the parts of our knowledge tradition, the dialogism, the question answers, the traditions of dialogues, the traditions of teacher and student relationship beyond the Vedic ages also. So by non-religious people and by religious people, both have contributed to Indian knowledge traditions. And other, you see that other than Sanskrit knowledge system, Pali, Prakrit, and other classical Indian languages. The Pali is the language of Jain literature, and Prakrit is the language of Jain literature, and Pali is the language of Buddhist literature. So Buddhism and Jainism and literature in both the philosophies, both the religious traditions or the spiritual traditions, is also the part of Indian knowledge traditions. So that's why the heading of this slide is Sanskrit knowledge system and beyond. So beyond Sanskrit knowledge system or beyond the compositions written in Sanskrit, there is a vast treasure of knowledge in other Indian languages, including Pali, Prakrit, Marathi, Bengali, and South Indian languages, the Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, and also other classical Indian languages, including Odia is also one of the languages in which the literature is very vast. And also the Kashmir. Kashmir cannot be ignored because it has contributed a lot to the Indian knowledge traditions in the form of Shaiv literature, in the form of Sufi literature of Kashmir, and the traditions of Sheikh Nuruddin Rishi and traditions of Lal Dei, the female saint in Kashmir. In the same way, you see that in Assam also, Shankar Dev also contributed, and his legacy and traditions, they are all the part of an Assamia literature in that way. Then Arabic, Persian, Urdu, and Hindi with regional dialects. They also contributed a lot. They translated, they contributed in original languages. Like in Persian, many translations of Sanskrit literature is available in Persian. Urdu also uses the symbolization of Indian culture and traditions. Amir Khusro uses the term Hindavi, and he also used Hindi. However, his mother tongue was Persian, but he says proudly himself that I am a Tutiya-Hind, I am the parrot of India. I can speak all the Indian languages, particularly Zabane Hindavi. And also Arabic, you see that many renowned classical literature of Sanskrit was translated for the first time in Arabic by Al-Baruni. Al-Baruni translated Yog Vashisht in Arabic language. And also he wrote a very renowned book, Tahqiq-e-Hind, in Arabic. These two books are about the Indian philosophy, Bharatiya Dharma and Darshan, and Indian traditions and Indian religion, the faith, the people. So Arabic, Persian, Urdu, Hindi, the literature written in these languages also contribute to Indian knowledge traditions beyond the Sanskrit tradition. And in that way, you see literature and knowledge traditions, if on the pattern of time scale you divide. First is the Shruti period, where knowledge traditions was composed from 1500 BC to 600 or 300 BC. And then 6th century, where Renaissance, it is known as the Renaissance because it is the first Renaissance in Indian knowledge traditions, where Jain and Buddhist schools established, and they also raised their voice against the Vedic ritualism, not about the intellectualism, but the ritualism, because Karma Kand was increasing. The thought and philosophy was accepted even by the Lord Buddha. But he only reacted against the increasing Karma Kand in the name of religion, in the name of rituals. And Charvak also, he talks about the materialism. He was totally against about the spiritualism. He doesn't believe in the Atma and Paramatma and life beyond life beyond this earth. So he doesn't believe. He only believes in the perception. Whatever we see, only that is truth. Whether Swarga exists, whether Atma exists, whether God exists, nobody knows, according to Charvaka. So this philosophy is also accepted in Indian traditions. And Mauryas and Guptas. These were the periods where materialism came into applied aspect, like buildings, mandirs, temples. The first temple came to be in the society during the Guptan period. पहले मंदिर उसी दौर में बनाए गए, buildings बनाई गई. लेकिन जो पहली मूर्ति बनी, the first idol, वो महात्मा बुद्ध की थी. तो ये वो पूरा पीरियड है जहां पर स्पिरिचुअलिज्म मेटेरियलिज्म में कन्वर्ट हो रहा है, और जो मेटाफिजिकल चीजें वो फिजिकल चीजों में कन्वर्ट हो रही हैं. So we see this the transformation of Indian society. And then Smriti period. This is the period where you see that the traditions are memorized, and on the basis of that rules and regulations are being formed, and they are codified in the form of Smritis, from Manusmriti to Deval Smriti. In between these two Smritis, there are so many other Smritis like Parashar Smriti, Braspati Smriti, and many commentators are there. Megatithi is there, Jimut Vahan is there, and so many other people. So composition of literature beyond 8th century, if you see, the philosophy in the second form, the first form was the Vedic philosophy. Orthodox and heterodox schools were there. But beyond 8th century, the emergence of Shankaracharya. He developed his idea on the basis of Upanishadic philosophy and Brahma Sutra, and he developed the Vedanta school. So out of those 6 schools of Indian philosophy, Vedanta schools further developed in the 8th century. And after Vedanta, after Shankaracharya, many people also established their own schools by criticizing Shankaracharya's or by adding something to Shankaracharya's ideas, like Madhvacharya or Nimbarkacharya and so on. Chaitanya also in 16th century. Then Bhakti literature you see, saints, and then Indo-Islamic literature, translation works, Sufi literature by the different renowned people from Islamic mysticism. And the third Renaissance included in evolved in 18th century by modern Indian literature by Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Swami Vivekananda. You can say many people, Rabindranath Tagore also, Devendranath Tagore also, and even Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. And because these were the people who enlightened the masses by way of knowledge, by way of wisdom, by way of their contribution in the arena of education, in the arena of intellectualism. So Swami Vivekananda was the person who not only highlighted the Vedic literature or Vedic ideology, but also he popularized the Indian way or Indian philosophy, even in Chicago, in USA. You see in Dharm Sansad in 1893. And Raja Ram Mohan Rai, he also used to publish a paper, I don't know, Miratul Akhbar and other papers also. And he also conglomerated the Christian mystical ideas, Upanishadic mystical ideas, and Islamic mystical ideas. So these people also fabricated the society on the pattern of a spiritual unity. So these people also contributed in the knowledge traditions even in 18th century. And then you see these are the 2 branches of philosophy or category of philosophical Shruti literature, Samhita, Brahman, Aranyak, Upanishads. I will not concentrate on this in a detailed way because all of you are acquainted, all of you are aware of this category of knowledge. Just to say that Samhita means Rig Ved, the compositions which are specifically devoted to the praise of gods. And Rig Ved is a composition of mantras in praise of God. The subject matter is praising the God. And there are 33 gods basically mentioned in Rig Veda, in praise of whom the mantras were composed there. And 10 mandals are there, branches are this, and hymns are 1028. You all know it. And again, the Yajurveda also, it talks about, again, the collection of mantras for performing special yajnas. So whatever karmkand is there, whatever rituals were there, the subject matter of the Yajurveda is the ritualistic aspect. And the subject matter of the Rig Veda is only the mantras which were composed in praise of God. But when Atharva Veda was written, it was about the worldly affairs and subjects. It is associated with worldly affairs and subjects. Means how our life is affected by so many external factors, so many internal factors. And also it covers the subjects like human thought, like faith or superstition, or healing from diseases, or magic, or tantra mantra, tona, sharp, curse, जिसको आप कहते हैं. Then Vashikaran, blessings, penis, worship, beauty, marriage, motherland. So these are the subjects which were dealt in Atharva Veda. Earlier 2 Vedas were solely devoted to the God and the performance of the yagnas in praise of God, like ritualistic aspect. But here begins the social aspect from Atharva Veda onwards. And then out of those Atharva Vedas and out of this thinking, 4 Upavedas were also composed: Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva, and Shilpa Veda. So they are all concerned with the human necessities and human need in a society. Then comes the Brahmans. Brahmans are again the books which were created for explaining yag and their procedures, that how to perform a particular yag, the ritual, and what would be the procedure, what material is required, what time is required, and so on, such things, related things, again related to the rituals. And then Aranyakas. Aranyakas are the books which were basically composed in the forest, in the serene atmosphere of forest. And they were also composed by the people who were living in sannyas ashram, who renunciated their families. They were living in isolation in the forest. So they got a lot of time to think, to brood, to meditate, and then a compost contributed. So here begins the philosophical ideas. Philosophical ideas means when man starts thinking other than the predetermined truth, when he utilizes his own way of thinking out of the influence of environment, of his experiences, there begins the philosophy. देखिए चांद को सब लोग देखते हैं, लेकिन अगर आपने चांद को देख करके कोई इमेजिनेशन किया है तो वहां से थिंकिंग शुरू होती है, वहां से फिलॉसफी शुरू होती है। एक पोइट चांद में बहुत कुछ देख लेता है, एक साइंटिस्ट चांद में कुछ और देखता है, एक राइटर चांद में कुछ और देखता है, और एक कोई भूखा व्यक्ति है वो चांद में उसको रोटी दिखाई देती है। तो दिस इज द वे हाउ यू लुक एट द थिंग्स। सो व्हेन यू ट्राई टू think differently, when you try to just look at the things not in a general way, here begins the philosophy. Philosophy begins with the questioning. अब यहां से क्वेश्चंस होना स्टार्ट हो रहे हैं आरण्यकाल से, कि क्यों, क्या, कैसे। अब जब क्यों, क्या, कैसे सवाल आ जाएंगे तो उसके बाद फिर उसके जवाब भी ढूंढने पड़ेंगे। तो जब जवाब ढूंढने पड़ेंगे तो आपको किसी ना किसी के साथ उसके डिस्कशन में शामिल होना पड़ेगा, और जब आप डिस्कशन में शामिल होंगे तो एक डिबेट होगी, एक डायलॉग्स होगा, क्वेश्चन आंसर्स होंगे, कुछ कंटेंट तैयार होगा, दूसरों के ख्यालात होंगे, आपके ख्यालात होंगे। तो ये पूरा एक सिस्टम डेवलप हो जाता है। फिर वो पूरा सिस्टम फिर जो है वो उपनिषद कहलाता है। तो उपनिषद आर द हाईली फिलोसफिकल बुक्स, or highly philosophical discourses are there between teacher and students, between different stakeholders of knowledge, where they have certain parameters of discussion, they have certain criteria of discussion, they have certain ideas of discussion and methods and mechanism and so on. So they develop their own mechanism, how to reach to the, और ultimate उनकी reality के जो वेदा में है, जो ऋग्वेद में है, उस reality वो है क्या, उसका मेटाफिजिकल एस्पेक्ट, उसका ऑन्टोलॉजिकल एस्पेक्ट, उसका एपिस्टेमोलॉजिकल एस्पेक्ट, मृत्यु क्या है, जन्म क्या है, जीवन क्या है, दुख क्या है, ये तमाम चीजें, कौन सी ऐसी विद्या है जिसको पाने के बाद फिर किसी और विद्या की जरूरत नहीं है ना, ज्ञान क्या है, ये तमाम प्रश्न ये डिस्कस किए जाते थे टीचर एंड स्टूडेंट के बीच में गुरुकुल में। तो वो जो कंपोजिशन तैयार हुआ वो उपनिषद कहलाया। अब उपनिषद जब ये दाराशिकों का जमाना था, मतलब मुगल पीरियड था, औरंगजेब का जमाना कह लीजिए, 17th सेंचुरी, तो दाराशिको was very much inclined towards the Indian spiritual traditions. He was very fond of Indian philosophy and Indian mystical traditions, particularly about Upanishadic mysteries. And he had his acquaintance with many Hindu yogis and many Hindu rishis and saints at that time. And Baba Lal Das was one of them. He was a very renowned man of letters or man of practice of that time from Banaras. और बहुत सारे बनारस के काशी के पंडित भी थे जो उनके गुरुओं में शामिल थे। तो उनके साथ बैठ करके दाराशिकों ने उपनिषद के बारे में सुना और सीखा। अब बड़ा पैशन था उनको कि इंडियन स्पिरिचुअल ट्रेडिशंस के बारे में जानूं, और जब उन्होंने जाना, जितना वो जानते गए, उन्होंने कहा कि भाई ये तो मिस्टिसिज्म वही है जो बात कुरान कर रहा है। कुरान जिस मिस्टिकल एस्पेक्ट्स की बात करता है उसी को सूफिज्म कहते हैं, और यही चीज उपनिषद में। तब उन्होंने ट्रांसलेशन किया और उसका टाइटल भी रखा सिर अकबर। सिर अकबर मीन्स द टाइटल इज द ग्रेटेस्ट मिस्ट्री। और एक और बुक लिखी, ही कंपोज मजमुल बहरीन, द सिमिलैरिटीज बिटवीन सूफिज्म एंड वेदांता। So he was inclined towards the Indian mysticism, and he composed these two great books, and they are basically the translations of 52 Upanishads, Sir Akbar, and Majmul Bahrain is a comparative study of Sufism and Vedanta, means Islamic mysticism and Vedic mysticism. And he found a spiritual unity between the both. And so Darashiko may be considered as one of the earliest precursors of Indology. इंडोलॉजी का पहला डिपार्टमेंट ऑक्सफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी में बना, हमारे हिंदुस्तान में नहीं बना। लेकिन हिंदुस्तान में जिन लोगों ने काम किया कि हु रोट अबाउट इंडिया, वो उनमें दाराशिको और अलबरूनी का नाम सबसे पहले लिया जा सकता है, क्योंकि अलबरूनी ने सबसे पहले अबाउट इंडिया लिखा, और तहकुक के हिंद और योग वशिष्ठ और जितनी संस्कृत के रिनाउंड बुक्स थी उनमें से बहुत सारी किताबों का ट्रांसलेशन किया। व्हेन दे रीच टू वेस्ट, ये किताबें ऑक्सफोर्ड तक पहुंची, ये किताबें वेस्ट तक पहुंची पर्शियन ट्रांसलेशन के बाद, तब जाकर के ऑक्सफोर्ड और हार्वर्ड में इंडियन इंडियोलॉजी के बारे में स्टडीज स्टार्ट हुई है। बाद में तो फिर बहुत सा कंट्रीब्यूशन हुआ, लेकिन जो जेनेसिस है, जहाँ से जो प्रिकर्सर्स हैं, उनको भूलना नहीं चाहिए। तो मैं मानता हूँ कि दारा शिको और अलबरूनी जो है, उनमें वन ऑफ द प्रिकर्सर्स ऑफ इंडोलॉजी अब कहा जा सकता है। बाकी बाद में तो फिर बहुत लोगों का कंट्रीब्यूशन है। 8th सेंचुरी में तो एक बैतुल हिकमा ही बनाया था बगदाद में, खलीफा हारून रशीद ने। तो बैतुल हिकमा में मैनी इंडियन सेंट्स, उसमें सन्यासी भी थे, उसमें योगी भी थे, उसमें हठ योगी भी थे, जो बाबा गोरखनाथ के शिष्य थे, वो लोग भी जाते थे और डिस्कशंस होता था, डिबेट्स होती थी। तो इंडियन नॉलेज ट्रेडिशंस के बारे में, इंडियन प्रैक्टिसेस के बारे में, इंडियन योगा के बारे में, भारतीय धर्म दर्शन परंपरा, इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में बगदाद तक नॉलेज इन लोगों के थ्रू पहुंचती थी। ये लोग वहां पर जाते थे और वो हारून रशीद का जो बैतुल हिकमा था, उसमें पूरी दुनिया से लोग, बड़े बड़े विद्वान आया करते थे और वो उसमें शामिल होते थे। उसी पैटर्न के ऊपर अकबर ने कोशिश की थी कि जमात खाना तैयार करें, लेकिन वो सक्सेस हो नहीं पाया। उसमें बहुत धर्मों के लोग आकर के बैठे हैं, डिस्कशन करें, म्यूचुअल इंटरेक्शंस हो, जिसको आजकल लोग वही कहते हैं कि इंटरफेथ डायलॉग्स जो पूरी दुनिया में हो रहे हैं। तो ये चीज़ें उस जमाने में 8th सेंचुरी और 9th सेंचुरी में हुई थी। तो ये सब इंडोलॉजी का स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट था। लेकिन बहरहाल आगे बढ़ते हैं। उपनिषद, द डायलॉजिक्स। अब कंट्रीब्यूशन की बात करते हैं कि व्हाट इज देयर दैट मे बी यूजफुल आउट ऑफ द इंडियन नॉलेज ट्रेडिशंस। So one of the very important aspects that Upanishads contributed is the dialogics. The whole world talks about now dialogics. Or we Indians also feel very delighted when we talk about the pedagogy of Operist, and we tell our students that Paulo Freire talks about the dialogism. और इंग्लिश लिटरेचर में डायलॉजिज्म है बाय बख्तिन, द रशियन राइटर, रशिया के एक राइटर हैं बख्तिन, वो बात करते हैं डायलॉजिज्म के बारे में। लेकिन इंडियन नॉलेज ट्रेडिशन में जब हम उपनिषद की बात करते हैं, तो द वास्ट कल्चर ऑफ डायलॉग इज देयर अवेलेबल इन द फॉर्म ऑफ स्टोरीज, इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एनेक्डोट्स, इन द फॉर्म ऑफ रियल हैपनिंग्स, व्हाट इज गोइंग ऑन। तो नाचिकेता और सीकर के बीच में जो डायलॉग्स हैं, वन ऑफ द मार्वलस डायलॉग्स कठोपनिषद में है। और इसी तरह से गार्गी और याज्ञवल्क के बीच में जो डायलॉग्स हो रहे हैं बृहदारण्यक उपनिषद में, दे टेक प्लेस इन द कोर्ट, इन द रॉयल कोर्ट ऑफ राजा जनक, द फादर ऑफ सीता। उनके दरबार में जो डायलॉग्स हो रहे हैं। इसी तरह से सत्यकाम और जाबाल छांदोग्य उपनिषद में है। फिर बालकी और अजात शत्रु के बीच में छांदोग्य उपनिषद में डायलॉग्स हैं। फिर इसी तरह से आप देखिए कि परा और अपरा विद्या, मतलब नॉलेज इज डिवाइडेड इनटू द टू पार्ट्स, अपरा विद्या और परा विद्या में। वन इज वर्ल्डली नॉलेज, अनदर इज स्पिरिचुअल नॉलेज। दैट वाज द डिवीजन ऑफ नॉलेज। ये नारद और सनत कुमार के बीच में डायलॉग्स हैं, वहां से ये डिवीजन के ट्रेसेस हमको मिलते हैं, जो कि प्रश्नों, ये ईशा एंड छांदोग्य उपनिषद में मिलता है। फिर ऋषि पिपलाद, वन ऑफ द रिनाउंड ऋषिज ऑफ एंशिएंट इंडिया एंड 6 सीकर्स ऑफ नॉलेज। ये बाद में भी बहुत बड़े ऋषि बनते हैं। जो 6 लोग हैं, ये आते हैं ऋषि पिपलाद के पास और उनसे कुछ प्रश्न पूछते हैं। तो ऋषि पिपलाद उनसे कहते हैं कि कुछ अरसा यहाँ आश्रम में रुको, ठहरो, 1 वर्ष तक रहो, काम करो, लोगों के साथ रहो, और उसके बाद 1 वर्ष के बाद अगर मुझे तुम्हारे प्रश्न के सवाल के जवाब आते होंगे तो मैं जवाब दूंगा। तो दिस वाज आल्सो द बिहेवियर ऑफ द टीचर एट दैट टाइम, हाउ हम्बल ही वाज, दैट ही टोल्ड दैट students to live and stay peacefully in our ashram among other friends and colleagues. Then after 1 year I will be able, if I knew then I will the answer. This is the humbleness of a teacher. तो वो जो उन दोनों के बीच में, मतलब 6 सीकर्स एंड ऋषि पिपलाद के बीच में, द डायलॉग्स, व्हाट हैपेंड, द क्वेश्चंस एंड आंसर्स, ओनली 6 क्वेश्चंस आर देयर एंड ही रिप्लाइड। ये पूरा सब्जेक्ट मैटर बन जाता है, ये मौजू बन जाता है प्रश्नोपनिषद का। So the entire title of this Upanishad is the Prashnopanishad, and we talk about the Socrates has started the question answer method. Here Prashnopanishad is there before you. So what to say? So that's why Indian knowledge tradition, just to explore that whatever was ours, whatever was our heritage, whatever was our means खजाना था हमारे पास, लेकिन because of our lethargy, because of our negligence, we just all forgotten it. So this is the main purpose of to revive the Indian knowledge traditions at least. बहुत से लोग कहते हैं कि तो सिर्फ किताबी बातें हैं, प्रैक्टिकल चीजें नहीं हैं, लेकिन once it was practical, Now the situation is changed, society is changed, resources are changed. That is another thing. But at least it was practical once. So how we can ignore that? Even if it is difficult to just transform the same thing in our today's society, because today we don't talk about हम अब ईश्वर की हम खोज वैसे नहीं करते हैं. अब खोज हो रही है मशीनों से. वेस्ट में चल रहा है ना प्रोजेक्ट, वो लार्ज हेडॉन LHC वाला, लार्ज हेडॉन कोलाइडर का गॉड पार्टिकल के ऊपर रिसर्च चल रही है. तो ईश्वर की खोज तो अभी भी हो रही है, ऐसा नहीं है. और 5,000 साल पहले भी होती थी, उससे पहले अगर दुनिया थी तब भी होती होगी, और जब तक दुनिया है तब तक रहेगी. रिसोर्सेस चेंज होते रहते हैं. बट हाउ वी कैन डिनाई दैट दिस वाज आवर ट्रेजर, दिस वाज वंस द वे टू find ultimate reality. So at least if we cannot search the God by these methods, we can adopt at least these methods that they were once the methods as a pedagogy adopted by the teachers in the gurukuls. So these may become the part of our pedagogy in today's knowledge traditions, particularly in Indian conditions, like dialogism is there, questioning is there. And even I will show you in the forthcoming slides that what other methods we have extracted from the Upanishads are there. Marvelous methods are there. Here again you see, other than the Upanishads, these are the traces of dialogues and storytelling in other traditions, like Yaksh and Yudhishthir. What a wonderful dialogues between the both. Then Draupadi and Mahasabha, Draupadi and Mahasabha of Kauravas. The dialogues between Draupadi and rest of the महारथियों के बीच में, इवन भीष्म पितामह और विदुर जैसे लोगों के साथ द्रौपदी के डायलॉग्स हैं. तो एक महिला जो है राज दरबार में खड़े होकर के और इतने विद्वानों के साथ डायलॉग्स कर रही है, तो इट मीन्स वीमेन वर also able to enter into the discussion. The example of Gargi is also there. श्री कृष्ण और अर्जुन के बीच में जो डायलॉग्स हैं, ये डायलॉग्स तो भागवत गीता के रूप में भी आ गए. सच ए वंडरफुल बेसिस ऑफ द डायलॉग कि आत्मा क्या है, आत्मा का रूप क्या है, मृत्यु क्या है. तो ऑल द स्पिरिचुअलिज्म, और दे हैव आल्सो द mundane implications when we talk about the three types of karmas, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. They all come out of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga है क्या? जो लोग साइकोलॉजी जानते हैं वो इसको इस तरह से अप्लाई कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज इंडियन नॉलेज ट्रेडिशन इज नॉट आउटडेटेड. इफ यू हैव द पोटेंशियलिटी यू कैन एक्सट्रैक्ट फ्रॉम दैट. कर्म योग, ज्ञान योग और भक्ति योग अगर आप मुझसे पूछेंगे तो मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि कर्म योगा वही है, ये ज्ञान योग वही है जिसको आप कॉग्निटिव एस्पेक्ट कहते हैं, और भक्ति योग वही है जिसको आप अफेक्टिव डोमेन कहते हैं, अफेक्टिव एस्पेक्ट कहते हैं, और कर्म योग है आपका साइकोमोटर एस्पेक्ट. तो साइकोलॉजी में जब आप ये इंग्लिश के टर्म्स पढ़ते हैं तो आपको लगता है बहुत अच्छी बात है. जब इसको आप कर्म, भक्ति और इसके बीच में पढ़ते हैं तो आपको लगता है ये तो संस्कृत है, ये तो आउटडेटेड है, ये तो हजारों साल पुरानी चीज है. वही चीज वेस्ट से अंग्रेजी में आ जाती है तो आपको लगता है ये तो बड़ा नयापन है. वही डायलॉजिज्म के रूप में आ जाता है तो आपको लगता है कि ये तो पेडागोजी ऑफ ऑपरेस्ट है. डायलॉजिज्म एक अच्छा सा भारी भरकम लफ्ज है, लेकिन वही चीज अगर संवाद और वाद और विवाद के रूप में आता है तो आपको लगता है ये तो संस्कृत के टर्म से आउटडेटेड. दिस इज द फैलेसी एक्चुअली. इवन यम एंड सावित्री के बीच में आप देखिए, व्हाट ए रीजनिंग, व्हाट ए लॉजिक, लॉजिकल डिडक्शंस. सब जानते हैं यम और सावित्री की कथा, लेकिन कभी आपने उसको लॉजिकल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से फाइंड आउट करने की कोशिश अगर नहीं की तो आप कीजिए. देखिए कि जिस फ्रांसिस बेकन जिस चीज की बात नोवम ऑर्गेनम में करते हैं कि एक लॉजिक है, एक लॉजिकल डिडक्शन होता है, उसमें वो एक एग्जांपल देते हैं अपनी नोवम ऑर्गेनम जो उनकी किताब है जहां से फिलॉजिकल रीजनिंग डेवलप हुई है. फ्रांसिस बेकन 16th सेंचुरी के एक बहुत बड़ी डिबेट हो रही है और लोग बैठे हुए हैं और एक सवाल है कि सवाल यह है कि हाउ मेनी टीथ आर देयर इन द हॉर्स माउथ. एक घोड़े के मुंह में कितने दांत होते हैं. तो 7 दिन, 8 दिन, 10 दिन हो जाते हैं, कोई किसी कंक्लूजन पर नहीं पहुंचती है पूरी सभा, और ऑल द पीपल are not finding the traces of the answer of this question, not in any scripture, because they are only searching the answer of this question only in the scriptures, in written form, in religious books. So all of us, but they are not finding that how many teeth are there in a horse mouth. So suddenly a boy appears into that assembly and he asks that why, gentlemen, you are worried, what you are searching for. Then the one of the gentlemen replies that we are searching such a very philosophical question. Who are you to interfere? we are involved in this a very important discussion, then why ask them, just let me know what's your question? Then they say that we are searching in all the scriptures, in religious scriptures, that how many teeth are there in the horse mouth. But it is nowhere it is mentioned, but we are trying to find out. It will be somewhere, because our scriptures are not are infallible, means इनमें कोई गलती नहीं हो सकती. तो वो बॉय रिप्लाई देता है बड़ा कैजुअली कि व्हाई यू आर वेस्टिंग योर टाइम, व्हाई डोंट यू ओपन द माउथ ऑफ द हॉर्स एंड काउंट द टीथ. बस उसने इतना कहा और लोगों ने उसको मारना शुरू कर दिया. दे स्टार्टेड बुलिंग एंड बीटिंग द बॉय. ही वाज बीटन बैडली, बट दे डिड नॉट एक्सेप्ट. It was the beginning of the reasoning and logic. Okay, if everything is not available in the religious scriptures, then you have to use your own intellectualism. This is the use of reasoning, the reason behind your question. So the same reason was, which is given as an example by an anecdote by Francis Bacon in 16th century. The same thing is there in Yam Savitri dialogues. जब यमराज उससे कहते हैं कि तुम 3 वरदान मांग लो, तो वो कहती है कि मेरे सास ससुर अच्छे हो जाएं, उनकी आंखें अंधी हैं, उनको अच्छे से दिखना शुरू हो जाए. फिर वो दूसरे वरदान में मांग लेती है कि मेरे घर में जो है सब ठीक ठाक हो जाए. और तीसरा वरदान वो मांग लेती है कि मुझे एक पुत्र की प्राप्ति हो. अब यमराज को चूंकि जल्दी जाने की और उनके सत्यवान के प्राण उन्होंने ले लिए थे, तो जल्दी जल्दी वापस जाना था. उन्होंने सब पे तथास्तु कह दिया, हाँ ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है. अब लास्ट क्वेश्चन पे सावित्री ने उनको रोक लिया कि रुकिए मिस्टर यमराज, ये बताइए जो लास्ट में आपने कहा है कि मुझे पुत्र हो जाए, तो ये पुत्र किससे होगा? पुत्र तो पति से होगा ना, पति के प्राण आप ले जा रहे हैं. अब यमराज फंस गए कि मुझे तो फंसा दिया. अब ये तो लॉजिक था. तो सावित्री वाज सच एन इंटेलिजेंट लेडी हु न्यू दैट हाउ टू टेक बैक द लाइफ ऑफ माई हस्बैंड. तो इसलिए मिसाल दी जाती. दैट वाज द इंटेलिजेंस ऑफ ए वुमेन. दैट्स द वुमेन इन इंटेलेक्चुअल ट्रेडिशंस. और हमारे समाज में तो ये कि अगर अब तो खैर समाज बदल गया है, लेकिन एक जमाना ये था कि औरतों की कोई वैल्यू नहीं समझी जाती थी. ये समझा जाता था कि दे आर डिवाइड ऑफ इंटेलेक्ट. लेकिन हम भूल जाते हैं कि देयर आर ट्रेसेस ऑफ सावित्री, सच ए वंडरफुल डायलॉग्स विद यमराज, ट्रेसेस ऑफ गार्गी, वंडरफुल डायलॉग्स विद याज्ञवल्क्य, एंड आल्सो ट्रेसेस ऑफ भारती देवी who defeated Shankaracharya in the debate, the wife of Mandan Mishra. So these are the examples of the intelligent women, Brahmavadini, in our Indian intellectual traditions. So everything is there. What is divided? How we can say that our society was so backward and outdated and orthodox? In what way? What was there? Because we just read the history written by Elphinstone or written by जो Eliot की history और Dawson की history है. They demoralized the Indians. उन्होंने इंफीरियरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स में डालने के लिए उसको रिक्रिएट कराया था. और बहुत सारे हिस्टोरियंस ऐसे रहे कि जिनको बाकायदा टाइटल्स दिए गए, सर और कौन कौन से और नाइट और ये वो, और उनसे हिस्ट्री को लिखाया गया कि इसको आप इस फॉर्म में लिखिए, सो दैट इंडियंस कुड नेवर कम आउट ऑफ देयर इंफीरियरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स. तो दैट वाज अ कॉन्स्पिरेसी आल्सो, बट वी कैन नॉट हम अपनी उस कोताही को या अपनी उस गैर जिम्मेदारी को अंग्रेजों के सर पे एग्जाम डाल करके उससे बच नहीं सकते. दिस वुड बी स्कैपिज्म. हमारी अपनी गलतियां भी रही, बट नाउ दिस इज द राइट वे. Out of the National Education Policy 2020, it is one of the biggest concept that the revival of Indian knowledge traditions in that way. So Panchtantra, Hitopdesh, Jatakas, they are all the stories and dialogues. Who could means imagine that even out of the way, this is a wonderful pedagogy of Panchtantra. एक राजा के 4 बेटे हैं और वो राजा चाहता है कि मेरे बाद मेरा कौन सा बेटा राजा बनेगा, तो उसकी ट्रेनिंग कैसे हो. अब चूंकि गुरुकुल में वो पढ़ चुके थे, गुरुकुल में जो ज्ञान है वो सबको दिया गया है, तो राजा के बेटों का ज्ञान तो थोड़ा अलग होना चाहिए. अब एक व्यक्ति को बुलाया जाता है, पंडित विष्णु शर्मा, और उनसे कहा जाता है कि आप मेरे बेटों को ज्ञान दीजिए. तो पंडित विष्णु शर्मा कहते हैं कि वेद, उपनिषद और आयुर्वेदा और सारी चीजें तो इन्होंने पढ़ी हुई हैं, अब इनको क्या स्पेशलाइज्ड नॉलेज दी जाए, पर्पस क्या है. तो राजा ने बताया पर्पस यह है कि मेरे बाद इनमें से जो सबसे योग्य होगा वो राजा बनेगा, तो इनको वो ज्ञान दीजिए जो एक राजा के लिए जरूरी होता है. तो देन पंडित विष्णु शर्मा कहा कि तो फिर इनके लिए मैं फिर एक अलग से किताब लिखता हूँ. तो उन्होंने पंचतंत्र की किताब लिखी. अब देखिए वंडरफुल पेडागोजी, मेथड्स ऑफ टीचिंग आप देखिए. मेथड्स ऑफ टीचिंग ये है कि उसमें एनिमल्स को सिंबलाइज करके एनिमल्स आर टॉकिंग। पहली बार दुनिया के इतिहास में एक ऐसी किताब लिखी गई जिसमें एनिमल्स जो है वो बातचीत कर रहे हैं। नॉर्मली एनिमल्स बातचीत नहीं करते। पर्पस क्या था? पर्पस ये था कि एनिमल्स की जो अपनी सिफात होती हैं, उनके अपने जो ट्रेड्स होते हैं, वो ट्रेड्स को पहचानना और उस ट्रेड्स को सिंबलाइज करना इंसान के अंदर। कि जैसे फॉक्स इज क्लेवर, तो फॉक्स ने तो नहीं बताया, ना कोई ऐसा साइकोलॉजी में एक्सपेरिमेंट हुआ है। अगर स्किनर ने, पैवलव ने एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए भी हैं तो वो चूहों पर किए हैं, मंकीज पर किए हैं, लेकिन फॉक्स पर तो नहीं हुआ, एलिफेंट्स पर तो नहीं हुआ, मगरमच्छ पर तो नहीं हुआ, या बंदर पर तो नहीं हुआ एक्सपेरिमेंट, या शेर और चीता पर तो एक्सपेरिमेंट्स नहीं हुआ। ये इमेजिनेशन है आउट ऑफ द ऑब्जर्वेशन ऑफ दैट फॉरेस्ट लाइफ कि हाउ दीज एनिमल्स बिहेव। बिकॉज इन इंडिया मैन यूज्ड टू लिव विद द एनिमल्स इन फॉरेस्ट। यूरोप में जंगलों को काट करके बिल्डिंग्स बनाई गई। हमारे यहाँ ऋषियों और मनीषियों ने जंगलों में एनिमल्स के साथ एक कोलैबोरेशन एस्टैब्लिश किया। दिस इज द सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट। हमने जंगलों को काटा नहीं, जंगलों को अपना घर बना लिया और उनमें रहने वाले एनिमल्स को अपने परिवार का सदस्य बना लिया। इसलिए वी हैव ए ecosystem that includes all the universe, including the forest, including the rivers, including the all the physical features, all the birds and all the creation by God. Human being is also the part. तो उस ऑब्जर्वेशन के बेसिस के ऊपर पंचतंत्र लिखी गई और उससे फिर जो लर्निंग होती है दैट वाज मींस एग्जैक्टली मार्वलस फॉर दोज द फोर सन्स ऑफ द किंग। इसी तरह से हितोपदेश और जातक। जातक कथाएं जो हैं बेसिकली दे हैव द सब्जेक्ट मैटर ऑफ द स्टोरीज ऑफ द अर्लियर बर्थ्स ऑफ लॉर्ड बुद्धा, वो भी उसी पैटर्न पर है। फिर वेदांगा है, some supporting books were also written in order to understand the original books of Vedas. I am just seeing the time, how much time is left for me. 7 is there. I'm just winding up within 10 minutes. So just coming आगे की चीजें, एक कामा सूत्रा है, ये भी एक बड़ी वंडरफुल बुक है अबाउट द 16 आर्ट्स ऑफ द वोकेशनल ट्रेड्स और स्किल्स। अब डायरेक्टली आई एम जस्ट कमिंग टुवर्ड्स yeah, 6 pramans. These are the 6 validity of knowledge, whether this knowledge is acceptable or not. So Indian knowledge tradition also talks about the 6 systems where you see that whether one knowledge, what are the source of knowledge? The perception is there, inference is there, comparison is there, postulation is there, non-apprehension there, or verbal testimony is there. So pratyaksh, anuman, upman, arthapatti, anuplabdhi, shabda, pratyaksha. So I'm just giving you the glimpse of these things. I'm not going into the detail of all aspects. It requires 3-4 more lectures. These are the ways how knowledge is validated. In research methodology, we often talk about the reliability and validity. But in Indian knowledge tradition, the 6 pramans are also the way how to epistemologically, but knowledge is valid or not. And again, you see 3 yogas and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we have already discussed it. Then these are certain terminologies there of Indian knowledge tradition, so I will not touch them. I'm just coming towards this one, legacy of spiritual traditions. How this knowledge tradition moved on in another century. From Gurukul, you see that Chaitanya's Kirtan in 16th century, and then Buddha's seminaries you see, and even in Bengal you see that bowls, they also have the tagline that Manir Manush. So they believe in the spirituality of heart. If your heart is pure, the God will definitely come to. Then Sufi whirling. This also the Indian Sufism is exactly the transformation of the Upanishadic mysticism. It is the amalgamation of Upanishadic mysticism and the Quranic mysticism. So Sufi whirling is there. Then Baba Nanak, Guru Nanak, the langar is there. Continuity of social services in the form of feeding the hungry people. And then again, you see that continuity and consensus, it is not just nostalgia. Rather, you see that from Buddhism, Jainism literature, Purans, Bhakti, and to Sufism. This is the journey. And this is the book what I mentioned earlier, the 4 Buddhist councils, division of Buddhism in Jatakas, and then Milan Panth. This is the book, is in the form of dialogues between the King Menander and the Buddhist monk Nagsen. It is a Buddhist text questioning of King Menander on Buddhist doctrine and dilemmas and answered by Nagsen. A monk was documented. So the beauty of this book is the dialogism. This is one of the extract of dialogism, how this book is written and presented. Milind is asking some question, Naksen is replying, then Milinda, the king is asking, and then Naksen is replying. So this is the continuous discussion, and out of they reach to a consensus. And then you see that continuity in the form of Sufi and Bhakti traditions. And again you see that Bhakti traditions in the form of flourished Shankaracharya, Nayanar and Alvar saints in South India, then Basavanna was an Indian 12th century statesman, philosopher, poet, Shiva Sampradaya, because in Hindu system was also divided into Shiv, Vaishnav and Shakta. So Lingayat is one of the Shiv Sampradaya. Then Ramananda and Kabir, you see the revolutionist Sufi Bhakti saints. Ramananda was, you all know, the teacher of Kabir. Then Lalan Fakir and Bauls of Bengal. Lalan Fakir is also called the Kabir of Bengal, or you can say the Kabir is the Lalan Fakir of this part, North India. Then Guru Nanak, Mirabai, Swami Haridas, Guru of Tansin, then Tulsidas, Sant Gyaneshwar, Sant Shankar Dev, Sant Tukaram, saints of Kashmir, and so on. And again, now you see that Muslim intellectual efforts to understand Hindu religious philosophy. So first of all, Dara Shikoh effort. S.A.A. Rizvi has written a wonderful book. Sayyid Athar Abbas Rizvi, one of the renowned historians from Aligarh Muslim University. He wrote this book about one book is The Wonder That Was India, Part 2. First one written by Basham. The first part about ancient India, and second part is written by S.A.A. Rizvi. So in this book, he talks about the contribution of Al-Baruni and other Sufi saints who contributed to flourish and disseminate the Indian intellectual traditions to other traditions in Persian or Arabic language. So he wrote, Al-Baruni wrote the Tahqiq-e-Hind, the first comprehensive dissertation on Indian culture, religion and philosophy. And also he did the Arabic translation of Bhagavad Puran. And then you see Amir Khusro's vivid portrayal of Indian culture and society in his poetry, translation of Hindu religious philosophy into Persian during the time of Akbar. This is Amir Khusro was during the time of Akbar. The purpose of this second point is that many books of Indian knowledge traditions, Indian spiritual traditions were translated in Persian during the time of Akbar. This is second point, not related to first. And Dara Shikoh's heroic efforts for the unity of the two religious cost him his life. Because Dara Shikoh was executed by Aurangzeb. Because he talks about the Hindu and Muslim unity on spiritual matters, that there is a spiritual unity between Islam and Hindu mysticism. Dara Shikoh, Aurangzeb could not tolerate, and he sentenced to death Dara Shikoh. So Dara Shikoh had to sacrifice his life for the sake of this spiritual unity. So his contribution cannot be neglected. In the same way, during the time of Akbar, you see Rajm Nama, this is the translation of Mahabharata, Kissa Nalaudaman, Nal Damayanti Katha, and Kalila Vadimna, it is a translation of Panchtantra, and so many other books are also there. Now you see some other commendable Sufi writings on Indian treasures of knowledge, like Miratul Hikayat Abdur Rahman Chishti, this is the Sufi interpretation of Bhagavad Gita. Then Alak Bani by Hamiduddin Nagori, Rizqullah Mushtaqi, Jyot Niranjan. They are all the books of Indian spiritual traditions. And again you see Hauzul Hayat, Amrit Kund. Amrit Kund is a book of the Hatha Yoga. And now this is the only existing book in India, not in India, but in the entire intellectual arena. The original Sanskrit book hai, it is not available now. The translation was done by Sheikh Abdul Qaddus Gangohi in Arabic, and the same book was translated in Persian by Sheikh Muhammad Was. This is the first book of Hatha Yoga, and it is available in Chester Bernard Library in London. But I think in शायद खुदा बख्श ओरिएंटल लाइब्रेरी में ये हौजुल हयात और बहरुल हयात के कुछ मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स अवेलेबल हैं, जो हठ योग की सबसे पहली किताब है, और अब ये संस्कृत में अवेलेबल नहीं है. इसी तरह से शेख नूरुद्दीन ऋषि कश्मीर में ऋषि सिलसिला चलाया. अब अपनी बात खत्म करते हुए कुछ उर्दू पोइट्री का भी बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है. जैसे हिंदी की पहली गजल संत कबीर ने कही, हमन है इश्क मस्ताना, हमन कोई होशियारी क्या, रहें आजाद या जग में हमन दुनिया से यारी किया. तो कबीर दास कह रहे हैं. तो दिस इज द कंट्रीब्यूशन टू इंडियन लैंग्वेज. नाउ अमीर खुसरो आप देखिए कि हाउ इज यूटिलाइजिंग द इंडियन सिंबल्स. बहुत कठिन है डगर पनघट की, और कैसे मैं भर लाऊं मधवा से फटकी. तो ये इंडियन सिंबल्स हैं, इंडियन ट्रेडिशंस हैं, मेथड्स हैं, उसका स्केच है, रूरल लाइफ का स्केच है, स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ का स्केच है, इसी तरह से पर्शियन में भी वो लिख रहे हैं। फिर शाह अब्दुल लतीफ सिंधी के एक पोइट हैं, वो योगियों पर लिखते हैं, योगीज पैक देयर बैग्स विद हंगर एंड प्रिपेयर देमसेल्व्स, से सिंधी में है, इसका ट्रांसलेशन इंग्लिश में अवेलेबल है। फिर डायलॉग्स एंड स्टोरी टेलिंग इन अदर ट्रेडिशन से हम देख चुके हैं। रिफ्लेक्शंस फ्रॉम उर्दू पोइट्री, द लास्ट पार्ट ऑफ दिस डिस्कशन। यूज ऑफ थीम्स एंड सिंबल्स फ्रॉम इंडियन नॉलेज ट्रेडिशंस। मीर तकी मीर 18th सेंचुरी में लिख रहे हैं कि उसके फरोगे हुस्न से झमके है सब में नूर, शम में हरम हो या फिर दिया सोमनाथ का। So he's also utilizing the symbol of Indian spirituality, Indian knowledge, the unity of Indian spirituality in his poetry. Again, you see Nazir Akbar Abadi. He is also writing on the childhood of Lord Krishna. यारो सुनो ये दधी के लुटैया का बालपन, और मधुपुरी नगर के बसैया का बालपन, मोहन स्वरूप निरत करैया का बालपन, बन बन के ग्वाल गई चरैया का बालपन. So he writes on Lord Krishna's childhood. In the same way, he also writes on Guru Nanak. And then Mirza Asadullah Khan Ghalib also. And then Nida Fazili, one of the renowned poets. Recently he died. Vrindavan ke Krishna Kanhaiya Allahu, Bansi Radha Gita Gaiya Allahu, थोड़े तिनके थोड़े दाने थोड़ा जल, एक ही जैसी हर गौरैया अल्लाह. So he is Nida Fazili. Then again Sir Muhammad Iqbal. Sir was given by Britishers, so Allama Iqbal. Normally in India he is known as the Allama Iqbal. है राम के वजूद पे हिंदुस्तान को नाज, अहले नजर समझते हैं इसको इमाम हिंद. So he's writing about Lord Rama. He's considered that Lord Rama is like the Imam Hind. He's the leader of this Hindustan, this nation, this great nation. So he considers, and in that way. And also you see that Allama Iqbal, his impression, the impression of Indian philosophical traditions of Allama Iqbal, Al-Javed Nama, one of the वंडरफुल उनका क्रिएशन है, उसमें से एक एक्सट्रैक्ट मुझको मिला कि एक यूटोपियन फॉर्म है कि जिसमें अल्लामा इकबाल मौलाना रूमी की रूह के साथ आसमानों में घूम रहे हैं और वो चांद पर पहुंचते हैं. तो वहां पर उनको एक भारतीय सन्यासी मिलता है और वहां पर भारतीय सन्यासी के साथ उनके डायलॉग्स होते हैं. अब उस डायलॉग का एक एक्सट्रैक्ट है, तो इससे आप समझ लीजिए कि पूरे भारतीय दर्शन का जो सार है, द एसेंस ऑफ इंडियन फिलॉसफी, अल्लामा इकबाल ने जावेद नामा के इस डायलॉग्स में उसको प्रेजेंट करने की कोशिश की है. तो भारतीय सन्यासी थोड़ी देर के लिए मौन हो गया, फिर उन्होंने मेरी ओर देखा और उत्सुकतापूर्वक प्रश्न किया कि बुद्धि की मृत्यु क्या है. मैंने उत्तर दिया, चिंतन का त्याग. उसने पूछा, मन की मृत्यु. मैंने कहा, चर्चा का त्याग. उसने पूछा, शरीर क्या है. मैंने कहा, यह तो मार्ग की धूलि से उत्पन्न हुआ है. उसने पूछा, प्राण. मैंने कहा, यह ब्रह्मा का एक रहस्य है. उसने पूछा, मनुष्य. मैंने कहा, यह उसके रहस्यों में से एक है. फिर उसने पूछा, जगत क्या है. मैंने कहा, यह केवल छिलका मात्र अर्थात बाह्य वस्तु है. उसने कहा, इसका प्रमाण क्या है. मैंने कहा, प्रियतम के चेहरे की एक झलक मात्र से इस सत्य को जाना जा सकता है. तो उसने कहा कि संसार के लोगों का धर्म मत क्या है. मैंने कहा, केवल सुनी सुनाई बात. फिर उसने कहा कि ऋषियों का धर्म मत क्या है. मैंने कहा, दर्शन. मेरी बातचीत से उसकी आत्मा विभोर हो गई और उसने मुझ पर हृदय में उतर जाने वाले तथ्य प्रकट कर दिए कि मूर्ति के सामने जागृत हृदय वाला काफिर उस दीनदार से अच्छा है जो काबे में सो रहा. So this is Allama Iqbal, how marvelously he presented the essence of Indian philosophy. Now again I would like to recommend these books because my discussion was incomplete. Many slides I had to skip. So if you like to dive into the vast ocean of Indian knowledge tradition, these 4 books I would like to recommend. The Wonder That Was India by L. Basham, The National Culture of India by Sayyid Abid Hussain, and then SSA Rizvi, The Wonder That Was India, second part, and then A Critical Survey of Indian Philosophy by Chandradhar Sharma. So these 4 books are, I think, for the beginners, it's very important book. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for such an excellent session. And we have a tour of 5,000 years of India in 1 hour. And
yeah, that's impossible actually.
yeah. So I think this is the crux of it. हम लोग को ये चीज समझनी चाहिए कि ये बात सही है कि एक इंफीरियरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स इंडियंस में डाला गया है और बिल्कुल ये जानबूझ के किया गया काम है और लगता भी है, और जिसका मॉडर्न वे में हम लोग आजकल कुछ जैसे मैनेजमेंट के उसमें मैं यूज करता हूँ, ये क्वालिटेटिव टर्म्स आजकल हम लोग के आम बोलचाल की भाषा में हम लोग यूज करते हैं।
जी
जैसे भाई कोई चीज की तारीफ करनी हो टेक्नोलॉजी की तो कह दीजिए जर्मन टेक्नोलॉजी,
हाँ
है ना,
जी
कि भाई जर्मन तकनीक से बना, जापानी तकनीक, है ना, नेवर
जी
इंडियन टेक्नोलॉजी।
हम्म,
तो ये एक बात है जो हम लोगों के जहनों में बहुत बैठी हुई है
जी
कि वेस्टर्नर्स आर बेटर, और ये कोई मतलब कोइंसिडेंस नहीं है, और बट समहाउ वी शुड कम, we should take ourselves out of that thing,
definitely
and we should be we should proud ourselves and be move ahead with
definitely
our foundations. So, sir, it's such a wonderful event. I like it a lot, and I believe all the participants liked it. Participants, if you have any question, you please ask quickly, and then we can uh, end the session. Is there any question from your side? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you
okay,
very
thank you very much.
much, sir. I think we all have email, dear participants. If you have any query, questions,
Yes, sir. You may share my mail, even my WhatsApp number also, and I will share my slides.
yes,
All are
yes,
welcome. All are
yes.
welcome. Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
विशांत सर आप म्यूट हैं।
ओके ओके ओके, सॉरी। तो आज का सेशन यहीं पे खत्म करते हैं, और कल हम लोग 3:45 पे ज्वाइन करेंगे, और प्लीज बी अटेंटिव विद द सेकंड क्विज, एनी टाइम इट विल बी शेयर्ड। सो आप उसको जरूर से जरूर करें, क्योंकि जैसे कि डॉक्यूमेंट में शेयर किया गया है, बोथ क्विज हैज 40% पार्ट ऑफ योर फाइनल ग्रेड्स, so be very attentive for that. Okay, that's enough. Bye for today.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Jazakallah,
Vishnu,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.